Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, we're bringing you a cautionary tale about the dangers of pushing the limits of science and the human mind. And quote, the experiment gone wrong and quote, is a gripping story about a team of scientists who set out to explore the depths of the human psyche, but end up facing their own worst fears and anxieties. As we delve into this story, we'll explore the power and fragility of the human mind, and why it's so important that we approach scientific research with care and respect for the subjects involved. We hope that this cautionary tale will serve as a reminder of the potential risks and harm that our actions can cause, and inspire us all to be more mindful in our pursuit of knowledge. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore. And quote, the experiment gone wrong. And quote, Dr. Miller gathered a group of scientists who shared his fascination with the human mind. They had spent years studying the intricacies of the brain and its functions, and now they had come together to conduct an experiment that would push the limits of their knowledge. The experiment involved the use of advanced technology that could read and record the brain waves of human subjects. The scientists planned to use this technology to delve deeper into the workings of the mind, and perhaps even unlock the secrets of human consciousness. The team had carefully selected a group of volunteers who had agreed to participate in the experiment. They were briefed on the procedures and reassured that the experiment was safe and ethical. The lab was a high-tech facility that was equipped with the latest tools and equipment for brain research. The team worked diligently to set up the experiment, connecting wires and sensors to the subjects' heads, and calibrating the equipment to ensure accurate readings. As they prepared for the experiment to begin, the scientists were filled with a sense of anticipation and excitement. They knew that they were embarking on a groundbreaking journey that would change the way we understood the human mind. Little did they know, the experiment was about to take a dangerous turn that would shake their beliefs to the core. The experiment began as planned, with the scientists monitoring the brain waves of the subjects as they performed various tasks. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until one of the subjects suddenly began to show signs of distress. At first, the scientists assumed that it was just a glitch in the equipment or perhaps a natural reaction to the stress of the experiment. However, as time went on, more and more of the subjects began to exhibit unusual behavior. Some of them became anxious and paranoid, convinced that the scientists were trying to harm them. Others became agitated and started lashing out, causing chaos in the lab. As the situation deteriorated, the scientists struggled to maintain control. They tried to calm the subjects down and reassure them that everything was fine, but their efforts were in vain. To make matters worse, the scientists themselves began to experience strange sensations and emotions. They felt as though their own thoughts and fears were being amplified, and they couldn't shake the feeling that they were losing the grip on reality. The team realized that the experiment had gone horribly wrong and they were powerless to stop it. They were trapped in the lab with the subjects, unable to communicate with the outside world. As the situation spiraled out of control, the scientists were forced to confront their worst fears and anxieties. They wondered if they had made a grave mistake in conducting the experiment and what the consequences would be. They could only hope that they would survive long enough to find out. As the experiment continued to spin out of control, the scientists were plagued by intense psychological effects. they began to experience vivid hallucinations, and the deepest fears and anxieties came to the forefront of their minds. Dr. Miller, the leader of the team, was the first to succumb to the effects of the experiment. He became increasingly paranoid and delusional, convinced that the other scientists were conspiring against him. Other members of the team were not far behind. One scientist became convinced that he was trapped in a never-ending nightmare, while another believed that she was being stalked by a monster from her childhood. As the situation worsened, communication among the team members broke down. They were no longer able to trust one another, and each person was consumed by their own fears and anxieties. The lab became a surreal, nightmarish landscape, with the subjects wandering aimlessly and the scientists desperately trying to regain control. The boundaries between reality and hallucination began to blur, and the scientists could no longer tell what was real and what was not. Despite their best efforts, the scientists were unable to halt the experiment. They were trapped in a cycle of fear and madness, unable to break free from the grips of their own minds. It was a descent into madness that none of them could have ever imagined, and one that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. As the experiment reached its climax, the scientists were left with no other option but to shut it down. They had seen the worst of humanity's fears and anxieties, and they knew that they could not continue. With great effort, the team managed to regain control of the lab and extract the subjects from the equipment. They were all in a state of shock and confusion, unable to comprehend what had just happened. The scientists were left to pick up the pieces of the shattered research project. They knew that they could not continue with the experiment, but they also knew that they had learned a great deal about the human mind and its limitations. In the aftermath of the experiment, the team struggled to come to terms with what they had witnessed. They were haunted by the images of their own fears and anxieties, and they wondered if they would ever be able to trust their own minds again. As they reflected on the experiment, they realized that they had made a grave mistake in their quest to understand the human mind. They had underestimated the power of the mind and its ability to shape our perceptions of reality. The team knew that they had a responsibility to the subjects who had participated in the experiment, and they worked to ensure that they received proper care and support in the aftermath. The experiment may have ended, but its impact would continue to reverberate through the lives of those who had participated for years to come. The scientists had learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of pushing the limits of the human mind, and they vowed to never repeat their mistake again. In the days and weeks following the experiment, the scientists struggled to come to terms with what had happened. They knew that they had made a grave mistake, and they were haunted by the memory of their own fears and anxieties. The team met regularly to discuss the aftermath of the experiment and to work through their emotions. They knew that they had a responsibility to the subjects who had participated, and they wanted to do everything in their power to make things right. It was a long and difficult road, but eventually, the team was able to find some sense of closure. They reached out to the subjects who had participated in the experiment, offering support and counseling to help them cope with the aftermath. The scientists also made a commitment to ensure that their research was conducted with the utmost care and respect for the subjects involved. They knew that they could not undo the damage that had been done, but they hoped to prevent others from making the same mistake. In the end, The experiment served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of pushing the limits of science and the human mind. It showed that even the most well-intentioned research can have unintended consequences, and that we must always be mindful of the potential risks and harm that our actions can cause. The team emerged from the experiment forever changed, their perspectives on science and the human mind forever altered. They had learned a valuable lesson about the power and fragility of the human psyche, and they vowed to use that knowledge to make the world a better, safer place.